Mayor John Tory announces he will be seeking a third term.
There's always unfinished business when you're in a position in public life, because if the city is moving forward, there are things that need to be addressed.
The issues Tory says he wants to keep addressing as he seeks another 4 years in office as the mayor of Canada's biggest city. Plus, 45 years after the Rolling Stones played back-to-back secret shows at Toronto's El Macombo, the complete set of the band's legendary performance is finally being released. And
maybe after he hears our stories, he'll be able to apologize.
Some members of Ontario's Indigenous communities are taking off for Rome tomorrow to meet with Pope Francis, what they hope to share with him. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Mayor John Tory has helped guide Toronto through two of the most tumultuous years this city has ever seen. Well, now he says he wants to help bring the city out of the pandemic by taking the helm for another term. If elected again, he could become Toronto's longest running mayor. Greg Ross begins our coverage tonight.
John Tory says he wants a third term as mayor of Toronto because he believes he has unfinished business.
There's always unfinished business when you're in a position in public life, because if the city is moving forward, there are things that need to be addressed.
While he didn't get into specifics about what his platform for re-election will look like, Tory says he will build on the foundation he's already established so far in nearly 8 years on the job.
I want to continue to dedicate myself to put my experience to work, to make sure I can maintain the partnerships that we've established, to make progress on jobs, on housing, on transit.
But those are likely to be some of the same issues raised by challengers on the campaign trail. His critics point to a widening gap between the rich and the poor in Toronto.
Add up those 8 years, and one of the legacies is increased inequality in Toronto, whether you measure that by income, by housing affordability.
Today, Tory addressed the housing issue.
This is about making sure no one gets left behind so that they have a home.
Tory was joined by the federal housing minister to announce new funding.
$201.5 million in new funding coming to this city, which will create 427 new permanent, affordable and supportive homes in Toronto.
While Tory still has work left to do on that issue, he may have scored points with voters on his handling of the pandemic.
It was evident he worked really hard, like he really devoted himself to trying to get Toronto through this crisis.
Tory was first elected in 2014, beating former Mayor Rob Ford. He was re-elected in 2018, capturing more than 60% of the vote. If re-elected for a third term, Tory said today it would likely be his last.
I fully expect it will. I had to have some discussions, and rightly so. You know, most of them were with family.
Tory is the first high-profile candidate to announce he is running. Official registration opens in May. The election is scheduled for October 24th. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Turning to the war in Ukraine that has now dragged on for 30 days. It's estimated more than 3.7 million Ukrainians have fled the country. The UN says more than 1,000 civilians have been killed and more than 1,600 injured in the invasion so far. Among the latest victims, a group of people waiting in line for humanitarian aid in Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. There's no word on how many people were killed or hurt. The number of people killed in last week's attack on a theater in the strategically important city of Mariupol is now at least 300. More than 1,000 people had taken shelter in the building. And Ukrainian officials also reporting that Chernihiv has become under an unrelenting Russian bombardment. The city, northeast of Kiev, has been surrounded by Russian troops, and as many as 300,000 people may be trapped inside. And in the capital, Ukrainian forces appear to be regaining more ground. International intelligence reports say Russian forces have been pushed back by as much as 35 kilometers in some western suburbs of Kiev. Now, pediatric cancer patients continue to be evacuated from hospitals in Ukraine, with a few more arriving at Toronto Sick Kids Hospital this week. 3 more patients and their families are now receiving treatment at Sick Kids. Ali Chiasson has more on their long journey to safety and the efforts to get even more children out.
Sick Kids is just one of many organizations involved in transporting these children from hospitals in Ukraine.
None of this would be possible without the work of truly remarkable clinical teams in Western Ukraine and Poland who are stabilizing these patients, evacuating them, and spearheading the efforts.
Where patients go is prioritized based on need.
Children in need of immediate treatment or stabilization are mainly taken in by Polish hospitals, whose willingness to care for these children is inspiring.
After weeks of coordinating the intercontinental logistics, the first planes have landed, and Sick Kids now has 5 Ukrainian children in their care.
The whole point was to prove we could do it once, so we could do it multiple times.
The hospitals handle the medical needs. Humanitarian group Aman Lara handles the logistics.
We have now secured funding for multiple flights, and we're really interested in working with other hospitals across Canada.
To work with these patients and their families is humbling. Take it from Dr. Sumit Gupta, who was on the plane with them this week.
I was struck on the journey about, kids are still just kids, and, we're laughing when things fell over, when there was some turbulence, or, wanting to play card games and taking immense pleasure in beating me on card games that they had just learned, right? And you would never know what some of these families and kids have gone through, given sort of the behavior.
These families are under unimaginable stress. Not only are their children fighting cancer, the war at home has forced them to flee, and in many cases have to pause their child's treatment to do so.
Will certainly be many psychosocial issues arising from both the cancer diagnosis and the trauma over the last couple of weeks that are certain to manifest in some way. And again, we're very fortunate both at Sick Kids and at other children's hospitals across this country to have, multidisciplinary teams that have the expertise to be able to address all those aspects of the care that these families will require.
Not to mention the local Ukrainian-Canadian community, who have been helping these and will help future families settle and heal. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, 45 years ago, the Rolling Stones stunned audiences at Toronto's El Mocambo when they appeared on stage for 2 back-to-back secret shows. The performance going down as one of the biggest moments in our city's rock and roll history. Well, now a full recording of that legendary set is finally going to be released. Our Dale Manukduk joins us live outside El Mocambo. And Dale, it's been a long time coming.
Kelda, can you believe the Stones are celebrating their 60th anniversary as a band this year? Now, these tapes, they've been somewhere for some time. They've been cleaned up and packaged for release. Their full set, 20 songs from their March 5th show and 3 bonus tracks from the night before. A snippet of this Stones classic, just one of 23 never-before-heard recordings set to see the light of day more than 4 decades later. The Stones rolled into El Mocambo near Spadina and College Street for 2 intimate performances in 1977. A year later, here's what Mick Jagger told CBC's The Great Canadian Gold Rush about those shows.
I mean, it's very easy. It's easier in a way playing in clubs than it is with Pickle. Right. I mean, you can hear people. You can hear everybody. You can relate to people very easily. You can talk to people. There's not the pressure to sort of dance as much.
The Stones pulled a fast one on concert goers. There was a radio contest. The prize advertised as tickets to see Canadian rock band April Wine, with an opening set by a band called the Cockroaches. Turned out the Cockroaches were, you guessed it, the Stones.
You have to remember that back in 1977, Toronto wasn't exactly an A-list stop on international tours. It wasn't a New York, it wasn't a London, it wasn't a Los Angeles, it wasn't a Chicago. So for the biggest band in the world to decide to play a dive bar on Spadina in front of 300 people, I mean, that was a really big deal.
Music journalist Alan Cross notes that not everyone was that surprised. A few days prior, Keith Richards had made headlines in Toronto. He was busted for heroin possession at the city's Hilton Harbor Castle Hotel. Here's what he told CBC about that.
I mean, at the time, I mean, to wake up with 25 mounties around your bed, it's not, it's kind of depressing, you know, but it's not something I think of now. I guess it's something that I know I've got to deal with at one point when it comes up.
In the end, Richards was sentenced to a year of probation and had to perform a concert at the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. The Rolling Stones live at the El Macombo will be released on May 13th. It will be available on double CD, 4LP black vinyl, 4LP neon vinyl, and digitally. Now, they did put out 2 tracks ahead of the release date. You heard It's Only Rock and Roll earlier. Here's a snippet of Rip This Joint. Kelda, I don't know about you, but for 45 years old, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it sure does. Thanks so much, Dale. That's our Dale Minukta live for us tonight. Well, meteorologist Nick Sternkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Nick, a gray day, and temperature is pretty chilly as well.
Yeah, gray and chilly, Kelda, across the GTA. In fact, across surrounding areas. Now, to put this in perspective, the average daytime high for this time of year is about 7. Today's high, 5 degrees, at least for the city of Toronto itself. So, I mean, a little bit below average, but that is an average up and down. We're going to see dropping temperatures, though, as we head through the end of the weekend. We're also looking at some mixed precipitation. Here's a look at the forecast map. Now, moving through tonight, areas down around southwestern Ontario will see some showers and some wet flurries. By tomorrow, though, it switches over to flurries and light snowfall. The GTA should generally stay as showers, especially around the lake. But as we move through tomorrow afternoon and into the evening, snow squalls develop to the north. We're actually looking at flurries for the GTA and accumulating snow to the north. For us, here's a look at the next 24. 1 degree tonight, so just around the 0 mark. Watch for slick roads tomorrow. High of 6 degrees tomorrow and showers, so that puts us pretty much on seasonal, but dropping temperatures into Sunday. Your full forecast in just a bit.
Thanks so much, Nick. A man is in life-threatening condition tonight after a stabbing in the Grange Park neighborhood. Now, it happened around 8 p.m. near Beverly Street and Dundas Street West, just east of Spadina Avenue. The man was rushed to hospital and is believed to be in his 40s. No suspect information has been released. Ontario has released its annual Sunshine List, highlighting public sector employees who made more than $100,000 last year. Topping the list for the second straight year, the CEO of the Ontario Power Generation. Kenneth Hartwick made more than $1.6 million in 2021. He and 3 other executives with OPG made up the 4 highest earners on that list. Now, CEOs for the University Health Network, Metrolinx, and Ontario Health were also among the top 10, all making more than $800,000. Premier Doug Ford and opposition leader Andrea Horwath were lower on the list. Ford making $208,000 last year, Horwath $180,000. And for a breakdown of the entire Sunshine List, you can visit our website, cbc.ca/news. The first group of an Indigenous delegation will be taking off tomorrow to meet with Pope Francis. They will be asking for an apology from the Catholic Church in its role running residential schools in Canada. Our Lisa Shing spoke to some members of Ontario's Indigenous community who will be among those headed to Rome.
I set up this curtain and I said to myself, I'm never going to open this curtain. I'm going to close it and I'm going to forget that school.
When she was 6, Marlene Cloud was sent to the Mohawk Institute, a residential school in Brantford, Ontario. She won't just be thinking about those experiences, but telling Pope Francis about them. Cloud is one of the 32 official Indigenous delegates going to Rome.
Maybe he'll, after he hears our stories, he'll be able to apologize for what that we had to endure. I want to know if he can help me heal.
The Roman Catholic Church has never officially apologized for its role in running residential schools before, but many Indigenous communities are also hoping for concrete action. They want all archival records from residential schools released. This week, the Catholic order that ran 48 schools in Canada announced it will open their archives in Rome.
What it has the potential to be is the start of something. It has the potential to be the start of something new.
For some of the younger delegates, like Mitch Case, a Métis regional councillor, the meetings are also a chance for his elders to share stories from their community.
It's our responsibility to go there and to listen and to create that space for survivors like Angie and Emil and Anne to tell their stories, and in a way that, quite frankly, no one has given them the opportunity to tell.
I don't know how well the Pope will listen. I don't know if he will hear us.
NDP MPP Sol Mamakwa attended this residential school as a teenager in Sault Ste. Marie. He's not going to Rome, but says the trip will be meaningful, even if he's a bit skeptical.
But when I look back on it, I think certainly it certainly has an impact of who am I today. My language, the length of my hair.
Cloud says she lost her language and lived through years of abuse, both physical and emotional. Still, she's giving this basket to the Pope, made by an artist in her community. It's an art that was almost lost due to residential schools, but continues to live on. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go back to Nick now with a look at your full forecast. And Nick, we are looking at some flurries and snow in some regions over the weekend.
Yeah, can you believe it, Calda? We're looking at snow in some parts of southern Ontario, but of course it is that transitional period where we go from winter to spring weather. So chilly weekend in store, snow for some, and seasonal temps, but not till late next week. Let's talk about that snow first. So for the GTA and surrounding areas, we've got showers that push across, switching to some wet flurries. So we could see some wet flurries through the morning and then through the evening as the temperatures hover around zero. What's going to happen, though, is a cold front moves through, colder air drives in, and we set up snow squalls to the north, and that's where we're looking at some accumulating snow. It lasts into Sunday as well before it begins to taper off. Watch the shift in the winds. We go from a west or southwesterly direction tomorrow morning, and then as we head through the afternoon and the front pushes through, we get this sort of northwesterly wind, and that's where we set up the snow squalls. In terms of accumulations, the GTA not expecting anything, but to the north of the GTA in the lee of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay, some areas 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. We might actually see some warnings pop up with this. For us, nothing accumulating, but still looking at some flurries into Sunday morning at least, and sort of tapering off by Sunday afternoon. Some mixed precipitation down in southwestern Ontario tonight. Not a whole lot, but we're still going to see some of it in that transition from sort of rain showers over to some flurries. For the GTA, there's a chance that we're going to see some isolated showers and flurries, but most of it coming closer toward the morning hours. Temperatures right around the zero mark. 6 degrees for tomorrow, and then a drop in the temperatures overnight, -5 flurries on Sunday, more accumulating snow to the north, -9 Sunday night, and you don't see the warm up, but Thursday, Friday, that's when we get back to seasonal temps.
All right, thanks so much, Nick. Finally tonight, a fun initiative from the Toronto Raptors and the MLSE is returning to the city to give youth in Toronto a chance to let their basketball skills shine. It's called the Midnight Basketball League. Etobicoke's very own Delano Banton is a graduate of the program.
They come with a little bit more joy to it, and just know that there could be another NBA player in here, just like how I was in here. So, just kind of believing in what it is, and for me to show my face, and these kids, they could believe that, maybe if I go to Midnight Madness, continue to go, it can happen to them too, because it happened to me also.
The program launched in 2013 and brings together youth age 14 to 18 from neighborhoods across Toronto community housing to play basketball on Friday nights. Now, it combines both physical and personal development with workshops focused on developing life skills used on the court, in school, in the workplace, and in their communities. Banton was joined tonight by teammate Gary Trent Jr. And that is our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Shannon Martin has you covered this weekend. Have a great night, everyone.